Hi, I'm Diane Frank. I'm caregiver and mother of an 18-year-old girl named Skylar. She's a senior in high school, and she's born with complex global medical issues, disabilities, for unknown causes. They include chorioathetoid cerebral palsy, partial deaf blindness, hypopituitarism, seizure disorder, and associated complications from cerebral palsy. She receives full-time nursing help at home. Skylar's a pleasure to be around. Her daily activities are playing games with her family, attending school. She loves, very social person. She smiles frequently and laughs. She helps with chores at home, and anything that we can help her participate in, she does. I think the most debilitating of all of her medical issues is a pain disorder that she struggles with that's rendered her unable to participate in a lot of activities when it flares up. It's triggered by different sources. It could be illness, it could be anxiety from being in new places. There's different things that trigger it. But she's been in the hospital several times because of the pain disorder. Skylar's most recent hospitalization was this last January. She was admitted into the UCLA PICU with liver inflammation and pain. She had a UTI also. Within a couple weeks, the infection was resolved, but her pain was not decreasing. They had to sedate her. If she wasn't heavily sedated on ketamine, she would go into rhabdomyolysis state for 4 to 5 hours. We call them pain marathons. Her CPK levels were in the 80,000s.
All right, Skylar, what do you think? I'm coming in. We're gonna set you up.
As time went by, she was staying in this same state. She was taken off of several of the medications that helped her. We were trying to figure out what her liver insult was, the cause of it, and she just remained in this pain state, and she was becoming greater and greater risk for complications from having to be so heavily sedated. So we were stuck in a quandary about what to do with her. Well, you can imagine Skylar's experience in the hospital was very difficult on our family. We live in Bakersfield. We had to commute back and forth. We have other child at home and needed to get her to school. We had family members don't live near us. We had to rely heavily on friends, and we also didn't have anyone in LA to stay with necessarily. So it was quite an ordeal. We stayed in our van. We did the best we could with what we had to do, even battling snow on the grapevine and road closures and all those things. It was quite traumatic for all of us. Well, prior to this admission with Skylar, we had not discussed or had a real thorough look at what to do regarding Skylar's end-of-life issues. She'd always been a full code status, so we were faced with determining what to do about the state she was in, being diagnosed with autonomic dysreflexia. We met with her team of physicians to discuss what to do with Skylar, really, what our options were, and they basically were boiled down to keeping her on the sedation and risk, eventual death from the complications from being sedated, taking her off of the sedation, and probably eventual death from struggling with a heart attack or some other issue with the pain, or try to get her on a medication that we could use at home and take her home and see what happens. All of three were basically seemed to be eventual death. I felt I was overwhelmed with the thought of all these things, and wondered what we could do, but definitely knew the best option for us, as my husband and I discussed it, was to take her home. We wanted her to be home for sure. If she was going to die, that was going to be the best place for her. This is a schematic that my husband drew to show our options for her end-of-life issues. The hospital setting for Skylar is usually very anxiety-driving, and I knew that there was a component of her pain was triggered by the anxiety of being in the hospital. So I was glad to have that option. I was hoping for that option to go home with her, but yet I was also overwhelmed with the thought of taking her home and managing her care and other children and other responsibilities, and not having that safety net of support from the doctors and nurses. When Dr. Lotstein introduced me to the idea of concurrent care, where she could remain getting the nursing care on an hourly basis at home, plus getting the support from hospice, I had hope that I could actually manage her care there. I was a bit skeptical about the role of hospice because I didn't know if Skylar's condition was necessarily terminal. I liked the idea of comfort for her, but I didn't want to give up on her will to live and support Skylar in this fight. If she was going to get better, I didn't want to just take her home to die. Well, after 40 days in the hospital, she came straight home from the PICU. We worked together as a team with the nursing agency, the hospice, and her pediatrician managing us all. And we looked for a baseline where she was comfortable, but yet we worked to try to start weaning her off of the sedations that she was on, and to see where she would land. Having her home was the best thing. We could celebrate her life, we could be together as a family, and it was so nice. Well, I can happily say that by the end of May, Skylar had improved so dramatically that she was able to attend a graduation ceremony at her high school. We really enjoyed watching her celebrate. There were tears, the hospice team was there. We really were able to celebrate Skylar and how far she'd come. It was a thrill. Her pain has been well managed. She's smiling, she's laughing, she is more of herself, and we're really enjoying having her around, and I'm so grateful for her experience that if we hadn't utilized the concurrent care, I don't think she would have improved so well.
You turn on the light switch? Let me see you do it. Come on, I'm watching you. Come on, Skylar. Good job. Excellent. Yay.
I think the care that Skylar received at UCLA was phenomenal, and the idea of taking her home and getting this extra support to keep her from going back in the hospital was also a great plan and idea. It worked very well for our family, and I would highly recommend to any family who's facing this situation with their child, to, whether it's terminal or not, to be able to bring them home with the support that they need. It makes such a difference. It really made a difference in Skylar's life. Well, as her parent, I've even with all the extra requirements that Skylar has in her life, I've really enjoyed her as a human being, and she's taught me a tremendous amount of things. She has the capacity to smile through a lot of pain and difficult circumstances. She's motivated me to persevere, to not give up till it's over, to look for good in all these things, and she's my hero. Yeah.